The big thing I say is, like, you gotta win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed.
What you truly value.
No right way and there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Stephen Kinsler. It's been a while, episode 42, and the purpose of today's show, the topic is building a strong generation. So a little bit about me, why I'm doing this particular show is I've worked with youths for strength and conditioning for 10 years. Over those 10 years, we've seen a lot of hundreds and hundreds, probably into the thousands of kids that have come through our doors and trained with us. We've seen kids that suffer a lot with different types of mental issues, motor pattern issues. And when I mean mental, I mean just the resilience. They don't seem to have it, their confidence, their clarity. And I'm going to get into that. But a little bit about me. I've been coaching youths, studying youth coaching, youth development since 2009. And we've been running the gym for 10 years, since 2013, end of 2013, 2014. Before that, I was actually a swim coach for 4 years, and before that, I coached basketball. As a senior, I coached junior basketball for teams. So I've been working with youths for quite some time. So my understanding and what I've seen, and really over the last 10 years, 12 years, I've really kind of delved deeper into the mindset and body mechanics and how kids are moving and how we can make them better. So one of the things I hear, and I like the saying, and if you're on any social media, you've probably seen it as real or something, and it goes like, strong people create good times create weak people create bad times create strong people. And it's that kind of forever rotation of that's how the world will work. And I disagree. I think we can change. I think we're smart enough as a race that we can still have the good times and create strong people by building resilience and building adversity into kids' lives. And what we've done is, as a society, is that we have tried to overprotect. There's more safe spaces. There's more team sports that don't have competitive edges. There's everyone wins mentality, and that's good to a point, but realistically, long term, it is not helping our kids and teens develop the mindset and just the awareness that life really doesn't care that much about you. And I don't mean that in a bad way, it's just reality. So no matter what happens to you today or tomorrow, the sun's going to come up, the sun's going to come down, the world's going to keep turning. And unfortunately, but that's the way the world. Now, we're all given a set of cards, right? We're all given a set of cards when we're born, and it's how we play and deal with those cards is how we live our lives. Some of us are given athletic gifts, some of us are given mental gifts, some of us are given less or don't have natural agility, don't have natural coordination or natural strength. But they're all things that we can build. And once you know where you are and you know what you can work on, then you can become stronger physically and mentally yourself. Just because you naturally are the best at something doesn't mean you're going to excel in that sport, because you mightn't have the mindset to excel in that sport. And when I talk about building a stronger generation, what I'm seeing now and what the issues I see is we have generation of kids that are lacking in confidence. They don't know where they're going. They've little to no clarity. They're overwhelmed. They have anxiety. They're labeled with everything. Everyone has a label, and if you're given a label, it gives you permission to not do anything, or it gives you permission to put your hand up and go, "Oh, pity me." There's body image issues. Now that's everybody. Everyone has always had body image, and then as parents, what we've done, we've overprotected our kids. We've tried to keep everything, protect them from absolutely everything, which actually causes more harm than good, even though our intentions were good. So what we've seen and what we know is, like, when kids play sport, not every kid wants to play sport, not every kid likes team sports, but it's kind of like the narrative we put on everyone is like sports. And don't get me wrong, my kids are in sports. I think sports are great, but not every kid wants to play sport. And some kids don't have the capacity to play sports because they don't have the information or the understanding on how to move their own body, so then they can excel at sport. And we've seen that when it comes to what we do at FSM. We've seen kids that came in very awkward, no coordination. We spent a year to 2 years developing correct movement patterns, and then they start excelling in sport. You don't get that level of attention in team sports, and in all fairness, most team sports in this country is voluntary, and I literally, a round of applause to anyone that volunteers for the sport, because you are actual legends. Whether or not you have the full knowledge or information on how to develop youths in a correct pattern, that is irrelevant to the point of you still being a volunteer and helping out, because I think it's a very underappreciated thing. So it's not from a lack of people wanting to help, it's just from a lack of education and systems that I think clubs could probably introduce. I really do. If I had my way, if you said, hey Stephen, if you could have your way, what would it be? I would have kids physically exercise every single day. Every single day, 7 days a week. There's absolutely no reason why a child shouldn't physically exercise every single day. We should be doing stuff with them every day. They should learn how to strength train. They should learn how to climb, tumble, run, swim, do literally everything. Not necessarily sport. There should be some sport in there, but every single day, schools should have mandatory fitness every single day, and we will see, firstly, kids that fidget, kids that have attention issues, that's going to come down because they're able to burn their excess energy. We're also going to see kids that have more clarity in mind when they're in school, so they're going to absorb more information. We know all this to be true because we know the benefits of exercise. We're going to see their anxiety. If you do a tough workout, so for example, if you do any sort of workout that is slightly stressful, and I don't mean like a big workout, like a 5-10 minute workout that like kind of pushes you to your limit a little bit, you're going to actually deplete your anxiety. So you're going to actually feel less anxious than going about the rest of your day. And like all these little things we can do on a daily basis to help our kids. The school system won't do this. I have no idea why. They're actually reducing sports in schools. Secondary schools, again, should be mandatory strength and conditioning, education, physical education of how the human body works. You shouldn't get it out of jail card free because you don't like sport. Should be mandatory. And I think if we started this, let's say, the first group of kids going into junior infants next year, by the time they finish 6th class, we will have literally 6 to 7 different generations coming through that will be physically stronger. Obesity rates are down. Our obesity rate in this country is ridiculous. Just general diseases down. Kids taking less medication. You won't need to label your kids with being overwhelmed and anxiety and all that stuff. And that's what we can do. We can literally change a generation, create stronger generations. And then when it comes to the likes of mindset, we can put that in place. We can show kids that life is not easy, life is not hard, and we don't have to like kick them out into the street and like make them like scrounge for food and do all that stuff. But what we do need to do is we need to get them to do chores. We need to get them to do tasks that they don't want to do, earn their keep, if you will. They need to be resilient. They need to understand that they have to look after themselves at certain points. And again, I know different kids in different ages get different chores. Like my son had different chores last year and he's got a few more this year. Now he gets rewarded for doing those chores. But part of it is that you just got to do things every day. And I got to do things every day, like you got to do things every day. And that's just the way life works. And like I said before, the sun's going to go down this evening. It's going to come up tomorrow. It does not care about your feelings. So you just got to get stuff done. So what we can do, like, so you got people that suffer from being overwhelmed, and I don't really like that word, to be honest, or have anxiety. And I get, like, everyone has anxiety, but I also get that some people out there really suffer from bad anxiety. And I'm going to give you an example of one. Anxiety and being overwhelmed, right? So anxiety is pretty much, it's a moment in time, it's a state of being that you are in. So it's a state of being that you're in. That's what anxiety is. And the reason why I spoke to a 12-year-old. I had a meeting with a 12-year-old about how anxious they are and they're overwhelmed. They've been labeled a few different things, and they use the label. Honestly, they use the label to get out of jail. And the question was, when do you feel anxious? Oh, when I'm in school and when I'm at the gym, because he was nervous about joining FSM, which is fair enough. It's a new environment, new kids. I said, what else do you love to do? Oh, I love to play computer games. Do you ever feel anxious playing computer games? No. Okay. So if you have anxiety, then you have it. It's there. No, you feel anxious at a moment in time in a situation. So we can train that. And when you reframe and reword things, then you can help kids understand that it is solvable, it's fixable, because they're not anxious every day of their life. They're not anxious at every hour of their life. There's parts of their life where they don't feel the anxiety that they have. So then once they know that it's not permanent, it is fixable, it's removable, and we can slowly better them, help them become better. So that's one simple way. And then the other thing when it comes to being overwhelmed, all that is just, firstly, it's a really bad word. It's a lack of understanding on what's important. So you're thinking about too many different things, and you got to get more strategic planning. And what we can do is we can help educate kids to figure that out. Teenagers to figure that out. Oh, I need to do 55 different things this week. No, what's the one thing you need to do this week? What's the top 5 things? And out of those top 5 things, what's the number 1 thing you must do? All right, let's get that done. Then what's number 2? And then slowly they realize that if they just tip away at small things and small tasks, that their overwhelming feeling is gone. It dissipates. And that's what we can do. We can help kids that way. We can help teenagers that way. And it's not rocket science. It's not hard. It's uncomfortable, yes, but that's life. And that's what we can do. So how do we go about helping kids be a stronger generation? Well, I generally think that we should be able to educate our kids on life, and the fact that reality of life is that your feelings don't matter to a point. Obviously, we care about our kids and we care about, but the world doesn't really care. And we got to educate them is that, yeah, if you want something, you need to go and work for it. And you shouldn't think that the world owes you anything. And if you're feeling bad about something, you need to be able to process that. Because remember, a feeling is just an emotion attached to a situation that has happened to you. And what you can do is, over time, if you're working with the right people, you can learn to deal with those emotions. I'm not saying shut emotions off. I'm saying able to deal, handle, acknowledge how you're feeling, and then be able to get yourself out of that state, that moment in time that you're in, feeling that feeling, and get yourself back to where you want to be. And that is a trainable trait. And it's something that we can work on. It's something we can educate our kids on. And then they can, when bad things happen to them, they can acknowledge that something bad happened. They're allowed to feel the thing that they feel, but also then they're allowed and able to create a new state to get themselves out of it, so they can become mentally stronger, physically stronger, because they're able to just keep moving forward. I'm not saying you're going to live a life where you don't allow anything bad happen to you, but you can live a life where you can get through it quicker, understand it, and process it, rather than spending days dwelling on something. So one of the other things I would say that you need to do tough things daily. You need to do hard things daily to become resilient. And people say, well, what would you have kids do? Well, it's simple. The first thing I'd have a child do is make their bed every morning. Why is that? Because no one wants to do it. And for a kid, it's tough. But you got to think, if you think about it like this, when kids start brushing their teeth, they don't do it. It's like kids will try and get out of brushing their teeth, and they'll tell you that they brushed their teeth, but they didn't, and they'll half-ass it. But it takes years for you to develop a pattern for your kids to brush their teeth correctly. It takes years. So it's like anything. Like, it takes years, it takes time. A good parent will, again, you're not trying to be their best buddy, you're trying to raise a child. So raising a child is, I think, it was better, and you can still be their friend, but if you're letting them away with things or not giving them chores because you had chores or you don't believe it should be chores, that's not helping them. It's not helping them, because then when they're older, they don't know how to make their bed. When they're older, they don't know how to make their lunch for work. When they're older, they don't know how to do food shopping. They don't know how to wash clothes. They don't know how to look after themselves. And I think these are all little things that we can add into our kids and teens' lives on a daily basis. Small, resilient tasks. Then you can have like physical exercise, which creates resilience. It creates physical ability for the body to move more, be fitter, be stronger. To become stronger, you must stress the body, so you become more resilient at a movement, so you become physically stronger. The kid is going to be better, he's going to be healthier, he's going to have a clearer mind. You can set out tasks, chores, goals, build them clarity into their day, into their month. So what's the one thing we're going to do this month that's going to be challenged? So every weekend we're going to go and run a mile, and by the end of the month we're going to run 30 miles, that type of thing. And if your kid can't run a mile, then half a mile, or maybe something that they're interested in. Farmers carries, squats, lunges, any sort of physical exercise that you feel comfortable doing with your child, once done well, will work amazingly. The kids need to also, they need to learn that life isn't fair, and that even if they do try, they're going to lose. So a few things that we could introduce is that kids learn to lose well. They learn to win well as well, so as a humble winner. But kids know if they're winning or losing, and kids understand that. And we need to have an understanding that if a team loses, or if your child loses something, that there's a conversation that happens after that. Why we lost, what can we do, how can we learn from it? And yes, it's hard, but that is the whole purpose of life. Life is always going to be hard, and we have to be able to build bandwidth in our heads that we can deal with all of that when it happens to us. So then when something really big or catastrophic handles, then you're the person that's able to step up. We have to learn to fail. Like I said, we have to learn to do hard things, and do hard things daily. There's one book, there's actually a few books that are out there. It's called The Way to Warrior Kid by Jocko Willink, and I think I've mentioned this in the podcast before. And they are amazing books for kids, for boys and girls. There's Mikey and the Dragon, which is for junior kids, like from 3 to 5, that you could read. And then The Way to Warrior Kid, there's 4 or 5 books now. We're actually on book 4 at home. And they're all about a guy called Mark and his Uncle Jake, and his Uncle Jake teaching Mark how to become resilient. And I'll give you a little insight into it. We read the first one, and my son goes, hey, I want to do pull-ups like Mark. So, and Jody didn't have any pull-ups when he started. 6 weeks later, he did 10 in a row, and every day he did his pull-ups, because that's what Mark did, and he wanted to do was pull-ups like Mark. He is now graduated, and he started this in the end of February of 2023. Now he does some squats every day, he does some push-ups every day, he does his pull-ups every day, and over the summer now he is doing little mini workouts. So he knows how to use a kettlebell, very light kettlebell, 4 and 6 kilo kettlebells. He's swinging kettlebells, doing goblet squats, working on his handstands, working on his tumbles, and he does that every day. Now what he does, I'm not grilling him for an hour a day, he does about 10 minutes a day max. He's run a 5k, he does loops of the estate, which is a 5-minute run, and that was his design. He decided to do it. But if you introduce these things to your kid, then they're going to start being more creative with them. And then if you're doing those things, so if you're the healthy parent, if you're not a healthy parent, if you're not physically in shape, you should get in shape, because your child literally mimics what you do. You are the most important person in their life, so you should be physically, I don't see you need to be shredded with like muscles and 6-pack abs and all that stuff, but you need to be physically active to show your children that being physically active is something that you should want to be. And that is very important when it comes to education of kids and physical health. And again, resilience, building resilience. Doing tough workouts every day will build that resilience over the years. So kind of what we're kind of alluding, like obviously what I've alluded to, what I've spoken about is that we have the capacity, the ability and the knowledge to get kids, the next generations and generations right now, to start doing hard things daily to start building physical and mental resilience or toughness into their life to make them mentally and physically strong as they become an adult. I think this is very important. I think this is a necessity. And I think that for a lot of parents that mightn't know where to begin, you can always reach out to me. You can comment in below. You can contact me if you need any advice on this. We know that it helps kids get stronger. We know that it helps kids get better. We know that it helps kids handle anxiety and stress and being overwhelmed and all those labels that were so fun and easy to throw around. We know that we can help all this. We can pretty much fix it and make kids better and educating them. So if we're not doing physical exercise every day, we're losing out. If we're not teaching resilience or talking to kids about understanding, processing their brain when bad situations happen. Now, I know certain kids are too young to understand that, and that's fine, and you got to let that emotional roller coaster happen. But as we get older, we can slowly introduce these things on a daily basis or on a weekly basis where you sit down and talk about it. And this is a bit controversial. I know some people mightn't agree with me. This is my way of thinking is that I obviously love my kids, and I want them to think I'm the coolest dad in the world despite my bad jokes, but I want them to look at me and go, my dad's strong and my dad's cool. But also there's another point of being a parent is I have to put that to one side and make sure that my kids are going to grow up and be good human beings, good members of society, and that is essential. And to do that as well, and most of the times to do that, you have to be the parent and not the friend. And you have to be able to define that line. So you have to be tough on your kids sometimes when it comes to their chores, their attitude, how they speak to people, all of these things. And then you're going to help create. And I didn't appreciate a lot that happened to me when I was younger because I was too young. Firstly, I wasn't explained to me correctly as I was growing up. But when I got into my 20s, especially when I started having kids, I realized all of the things my parents were doing for me at the time were for my best interest. But at the time, I thought that there was horrible, mean people who just didn't want anyone to have any fun. That's not the case most of the time. Being a good parent is part of life, and being a good parent is helping to raise a strong physically and mentally child. And that's what we can do. As parents and just as people, as a society, we can change this so quickly. It's crazy that we're not doing it. It's like it's too easy, let's not do it. So guys, that is the end of episode 42. I hope you got a lot from it. I know I kind of rambled a little bit here and there, but yeah, that's okay. I'm okay with that. We can build a stronger generation. We can make it happen. And within 5 to 10 years, we can literally have a whole generation in this country if the school system and parents were able to just all come together and just realize that it has to happen. Otherwise, we're going to create more labels, we're going to create more safe spaces, and we're going to literally have children and teens who grow into adults that literally don't know how to function in the world. That is a scary place to be, because when shit goes down, they won't be able to handle anything. And guess what you're going to see happen? Depression rates, suicide rates, all of that stuff is going to go through the roof. It's inevitable. But we can offset that, we can reverse it, and we can build a stronger generation. And that generation then can build a stronger generation. And we can do that by building resilience, teaching kids to be strong. That is it. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you do, please like, subscribe. If you disagree with me, I'd love to know your thoughts. Post in the comments. Happy to have a chat. If you need any help or you want some advice on anything, again, reach out to me. Happy to help. Again, yeah, like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the algorithm, helps the channel grow, helps me get some more guests on. Well, it doesn't, but hopefully eventually it will help me get some bigger guests on. We are going to have some cool guests. Guys, thank you for listening to the show, and I will see you on the next one.
The big thing I say is like, you gotta win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed.
What you truly value.
No right way and there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler Podcast.